Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, the 14th of September, and it is 6 o'clock, bright and early. All right, we're here to look after you this morning. Me, Bulelo, and Lebang, who will be joining us in just a second. Hope you are off to a good start for the day today. Lots of things to talk about. There's lots that we missed out on talking about yesterday. There's plenty we have to get to, so we'll do all of that and a whole lot more in the next 2 hours that we get to spend with you. We're also going to be joined by a guy a little later on. This is his book. It's called Go and Play Inside: What Video Games Can Teach Us About the Game of Life, and why your kids playing games is not always the worst thing. Now, I can hear a bunch of parents going, whew, because they feel bad about they put a screen in front of their kids the whole time. But I can also hear some other parents going, oh, that's bullshit. I know that's bullshit. We'll hear what Gareth Woods has to say about this. I think it's going to be interesting. It'll also be controversial. I want to hear your thoughts on this too. Hey, morning, Nebang. How are you?
Grand rising, brothers. I'm awesome, and how are you?
Very, very good. Very, very good.
Good. Apparently, good morning is not a real thing anymore. We don't say morning.
Why?
Because there's like a double entendre in the word morning. It's actually to mourn. So the English language is just trying to oppress us even more. So we don't say morning. We say grand rising.
I don't, that sounds like horse shit to me. Listen, I have noticed when I wake up now, it's still pretty dark, but by the time the show starts at 6 o'clock, there is light. Now, just not even 2 weeks ago, it was still pitch dark at this time. So we must be very happy about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are you, Mbulelo?
I'm good. I am good.
Did you go to the hair salon? I'm seeing a nice You did, nah?
A bullet head. Yeah, my mother always said I've got a bullet head because I've got a big head, so that's what she always used to call it. But yeah,
it looks nice. Grand rising, brother. In like summer vibes.
Grand rising.
I was like, am I allowed to put it in emails? I was like, and I did yesterday. I sent an email. I was like, grand rising, everyone. And I felt like such a douche.
Yeah, that's trying very hard. Oh, yeah. Speaking of trying very hard, before we go anywhere else in the show this morning, some very disturbing pictures I just want to get to straight away. All right, so here it is, the first one. Take a look at this, and I'll describe it for you if you're watching. I mean, if you're listening, not watching. So it's this very old woman in a leather outfit with a leather hat. Looks like sort of a police hat, but it's leather. She's got straps all over her waist. She's got these long black gloves. She's got like a jacket in her hand. And she's just very old.
Is that Madonna?
Is that Madonna? I was about to say.
Madonna, yeah, it's Madonna. It's a picture of Madonna from the VMAs, the MTV VMAs, which they held, I think, over the weekend. What a disturbing ceremony. Jesus. This woman, really, you know, there are a lot of things that you should do in your 50s and 60s, and that is not one of them.
Hey, she still got it, Gareth. Come on.
I don't know, dude.
Like, she doesn't look horrible. Sure, she looks a bit desperate, but, you know, she's in entertainment. You expect her to push it.
Okay, but it's not that she looks bad as a human being. It's not like she's in the worst shape ever, or she's an ugly woman, or any of that stuff, right? It's none of those things. It's like at a certain age, it's not necessary for you to wear leathers and have to win over people in their 20s who don't even remember. Like people in their teens and 20s now do not know what you're famous for. They have no idea who Madonna is. And if they do,
so true.
It's like this distant, like ancient history thing. So I'm not sure what she's trying to achieve there, but I just think it's awful. I mean, you know, to still be so keen to get the attention. I mean, she pitched up there in a ball gown and she walked up on stage and said, "Hi, everybody. I'm Madonna. It's great to be here at the VMAs. Good luck to all the award winners and nominees tonight." Everyone would go, "Wow, what a dignified woman who had this incredible career and continues to fill stadia when she does a show." And it's entirely appropriate for her to dress like that for her own shows. I mean, she can do whatever she wants. I'm not going to tell Madonna what to. But it's like, it's a bit sad. It's like, you know, it's the kind of the guy who played sport at high school and then he keeps going to the high
and those were his good years, and like his life never Oof,
Right.
never peaked after that. But I think with Madonna, it's because like she's known as this massive sex symbol, while she was anyway, and this is how she communicates with her audience. I think maybe the audience of the VMAs, she knows that it's like, young, in tune type people. So yes, we agree on one thing. She is definitely desperate in the sense of still being about that life. I just don't think it's in her nature as an artist, as a performer, to be dressed to the T, dress up to here and just be all stagnant. She's not ready to give it, to throw in the towel. She is happy to be hot, and she'll show you until she dies.
So I get that, and I'm not. You see, this is so complicated because I don't want people to get the idea that by me criticizing Madonna and putting those pictures up, that it's because she shouldn't be allowed to do whatever she wants or keep the glory days going for as long as she wants to. But it is a little bit unnecessary and sad. Like there's something so dignified about someone just accepting that they're at a certain stage in life and that they no longer need to crawl around on the floor begging for attention. That's the thing that bugs me. I mean, she's been a tremendous success. I'm a fan of a whole lot of Madonna's songs. I like a lot of her work. She's an impressive human being.
She really is.
When she does this to pander to like 20-year-olds who don't care who she is, what the hell's the point?
But if her only currency has ever been to be famous, like nobody thinks Madonna can sing. She's not Mariah Carey. Like Mariah Carey's music will live forever. I mean, the great Aretha Franklin, you saw her her perform just before she passed. Like, oh, geez, what is that? Whereas Madonna's thing is, I'm famous. It's like Kim Kardashian is. She's famous for being famous. It gets so ugly at the end. You look at like Judi Dench versus all of the other, just I don't know, like Johnny Depp or whatever shitheads that are. Is Judi Dench class till the end because you're an A-list actor and skill lives forever? Shout out to Madonna. That is rough stuff. That is.
I know she's got a team. Like somebody in the team must have been like, hey, look, let's lose the length, let's maybe try for something a little bit more. I don't know. They could have told her. I agree. The outfit itself is just like, oh man, come on, girl. Like, you don't need to still be doing this. We dig you. You did this thing all your life.
You just hit the nail on the head. You don't need to be doing this anymore. Just like accept the love that people have for you. I mean, so she's 63 years old right now. Okay.
Right.
And don't get me wrong. Like I look at her, I look at Cher, and I see these two women who have not given up on being sexy. And to some degree, that's hugely respectable. And you know what? Frankly, the two of them do look better than some of the 40-year-olds I see going around, right? But I still think it's so unnecessary. It's just, this doesn't come from a let's make fun of Madonna point of view. This comes from a like, let's not be sad, please. Let's not be sad. Don't be sad and desperate. Don't do this. You've got lots to be really pleased about and proud of. Anyway, I'm just glad that it's not my mom. I'm really glad that's not my mom doing that. And I wonder how the kids feel when
the kids feel. To each their own, number one. Number two, your mom is Madonna. Hello, you're sorted, bro. Like, you shouldn't even care about anything. No. You absolutely do not care in the same way that your mother doesn't care. You don't care. So kudos to them. They're doing their thing.
Having said that, Guy Ritchie's going, thank God I got out of there.
Hey.
I don't need that. I don't need that at 60.
No, Guy Ritchie needs to relax and just give us freaking Rock and Roller Part 2, and then everything will be okay. He's been promising us that movie, so he needs to just relax. That's when we'll start talking about Guy Ritchie again, when we get Rock and Roller Part 2.
Maybe she's trying to be nostalgic, says Ruth. How about her in a pretty red or white dress, i.e. Pretty Woman style? Yeah, you see, that would have been like, people would have gone, wow, Madonna can really class it up as well, because she can. We know she can, right? The VMA audience ain't going to get that message. No, they're not. That is a stupid audience, actually. You know what? Frankly, if you're invited to the VMAs, just don't go. Like, it's just stupid. Justin Bieber arrived to collect an award.
Yeah.
He's wearing a hoodie and pants that were like 8 sizes too big. He looked like a homeless man.
No, he really did.
I don't understand. Like, again, you're going to accept an award. People are giving you an award for being someone they like. And frankly, I don't even know what Bieber's done this year to deserve it.
Honestly, and I think he got something like, was it Artist of the Year? Something stupid like that. Come on, Bieber, you've been not doing music for a while, other than Peaches.
You know, it's sort of there are these events which are happening in the world which are just so out of touch with reality and out of touch with what most people's lives are. The VMAs. I saw the Met Gala, which happened this week as well. Now, the Met Gala has got to be the most stupid event of all time. It's a whole bunch of extremely wealthy, mostly Hollywood connected and art specific celebrities and very, very rich people all over New York. They get together in these ridiculous outfits, and it's basically a chance for them all to lick each other's assholes. And
100%.
And they are not connected in a year like people have had, right? I mean, America of all places, how out of touch, how thoughtless and desensitized to what's going on do you have to be? You know, you've just had 13 people killed in Afghanistan, 13 Americans in a disastrous withdrawal, which has been a complete fuck up from top to bottom. You've got arguments between states about vaccine mandates. You've got people saying children need to be vaccinated. You've got arguments going on around schools in America. You've got parents who are worried. You've got people who've died of COVID. You've got questions about the recall of a governor in California. You know, there are things happening. And then all these dummies come out in these dresses and go to a ball like it's like you're in a Disney movie. You know, like suddenly everything around you is totally unimportant and you're in your Disney movie. And the VMAs, you've got stupid people screaming for like Justin Bieber about 7 years too late.
I think people they do this to just like make themselves feel better. I mean, who really wants to openly say, you know, we're aware of what's going on. We're going to get entrenched in the reality that is our lives and help people. For them, they're more interested in like making money. They'd rather put on a show as they've been doing all their lives and just doing fluff. It's bollocks.
It is embarrassing though. It's like it used to be that these things were okay because the world was mostly a happy place. I mean, like the world was, you know, we weren't engaged in major issues and cultural problems and the breakdown of kind of liberal democracies or COVID. This was before COVID where people had real shit in their lives, you know, job losses and all that kind of shit. Now it just feels so tasteless. And I'm not saying don't have fun. Like everybody's allowed to have fun. In fact, I've been the one who said all of this stuff is stupid. You look at some governments that have completely shut down their countries and continue to, like in New Zealand, Australia, Canada. You know, you have to have passports for this thing and for that thing, which you didn't have before. I think that's crazy. But these events, these Hollywood things are just such. It's like watching Marie Antoinette holding a huge ball at the Palace of Versailles while the mob in Paris is at the gates with their pitchforks saying, we're going to come in and kill you. And she's like, oh, don't worry, let them eat cake.
No, she didn't say that. Everybody keeps saying that. That's not what she said. But anyway.
I know.
What's it? They're no more dickheaded, though, than the British royal family. The height of ridiculousness is the British royal family. They are the... Hollywood has nothing on those pricks at Buckingham Palace. Nothing. And you know this, and I know this.
I agree with you, but at least that has got 1,000 years of history to make it seem legitimate, right?
No, that's worse. People suffered worse then, and they built palaces. No, that's worse.
No, I think people actually really like the royal family in Mbulelo. If you look at the popularity polls, the Queen is more popular now than she's ever been in her whole reign. Really, this is the truth.
No, that means people are idiots.
No, people maybe
idiots. Remember, a lot of being English, Scottish, Northern Irish, Welsh is wrapped up in that whole thing, right? That's what their identity. It's like, you know, you can be proud of your. Let's say if you're Jewish, you can be proud of being Jewish without having to be a religious Jew. You know? Sure. Some people say that the two are bound up together. You can be a proud Zulu, but you don't have to be a monarchist. Do you know what I mean? You can be a proud person of Britain, but your history is so tied up in that royal family. Things that have I promise you, over 1,000 years. I mean, how many episodes of Blind History have we done on kings and queens of England? These are people who've been, they've directed the course of that nation's history. Whereas, someone who goes to the Met Gala has not. Kanye and Kim really have not. I mean, they may have directed pop culture in a certain way, but you can't say they've exercised political power, made wars happen. And of course, the gravity of the secondary category is much higher and heavier than the gravity of the first. My problem is that even if the Queen is a ridiculous thing, and I understand what you're saying, even if she's a ridiculous thing, she's not interfering in politics anymore. And in fact, she's got nothing to say about politics. Whereas you got these.
That's because she's already done 1,000 years of it. We mustn't just be. It's not just about now. She's already benefiting off 1,000 years of having.
She hasn't personally. Look, I'm in favor of that kind of government. I like the system of government where the head of state and the head of government are two separate people, because I think it gives you a symbol for national unity. I always thought that what we should have done is kind of have made Madiba some sort of king, and then it's not inherited though. That's where it gets messy, because he was this head of state, the symbol of the country, which we needed. But then you have the politicians, the people you like, these efficient bureaucrats. You have those people running the government, because you don't want to.
Whoa,
no, well, you do like them. You like people like Angela Merkel.
I do. No. I've said make them efficient like Merkel and have less of them. In fact, I hate politicians. I've told you this before. Make them all apps. I hate politicians.
But you like her because she's an efficient administrator.
Get in the background. Let's get Merkel.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay, now you're speaking my language. So Angela Merkel gets in the background. She's the chancellor. You know that Germany has a president as well, a federal president. And that person is the symbol. He cuts the ribbons. He goes to the important events. He hosts foreign dignitaries. He does all the symbolic shit that makes it feel like there's a country, even though they're all these disparate kind of states within Germany. It's a federal system. And here in South Africa, we've got, the Zulu people, and they've got like the Zulu king, and then there's the Xhosas, and they've got like two kings. And then there's the Afrikaans people who don't really have a leader, and that's part of their problem at the moment. Then there's the colored people in the Cape who also don't really know who their leader is. And we've got these political parties, and it's all a bit of a mess because we don't have a unifying figure. Now, whether you are rich or poor, old or young, people like the idea of the Queen because she, in England, or in Britain as it is, she symbolizes something they can all kind of, we can deal with this. This is nice. The dignified old lady who behaves impeccably on the world stage. She never embarrasses us like all these presidents and prime ministers do. I mean, presidents and prime ministers fall asleep at state banquets. They say stupid things in speeches. They politically polarize people, all that sort of shit. She doesn't do any of that. So she makes them proud, and she gives them a reason to be proud of being British, even though it's a dumb reason in your opinion. It works. Whereas
on the other side, we have America.
Yeah, but this is it. So America's looking for someone like that because, for God's sake, it's not Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Barack Obama, right? It's really none of those guys. So what do? They look for it in celebrities like Madonna, for God's sake. And then what do? They behave like celebrities. And that's deeply disappointing in the long run. There's nothing going on there. Nothing that people want. Anyway. So, look, I didn't mean to get into politics with that Madonna picture, but it shows you where she can take you. Can we just talk quickly about your because I heard you guys talking on the MKT show about a whole lot of things that happened over the weekend, and there was a bit of talk about the rugby, and there was talk about Formula One as well. I just want to talk about this Lewis Hamilton situation because he was very nearly killed.
Listen, if you didn't see it, that was really, really scary. And until you've seen it sort of 4 or 5 times, there's a hectic crash. Now, in the photo we've got on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, you'd have to take a look or just Google it. Is that a guy called Max Verstappen, who's a Dutch wunderkind right now, so they've crashed and had a collision, but his car's actually gone over the top of Lewis's, and for a couple of seconds, his back wheel is like fully on, and it is revving. It actually touches Lewis's head. By the way, there's something called a halo.
his back wheel goes right over the cabin that Hamilton's in. It's like he drives over his head. There are a whole lot of memes going around of like Lewis Hamilton with tire marks on his head.
But this was so scary because he got saved by something that they added in Formula One. We had Spike Valentine yesterday, who's our car guy, is that there's something called a halo, and that saved Lewis's life because, oh my God, that car came over the top. And I thought, like, you don't see it up front, and then they kind of just get out, and then they show the replay. Oh, no, oh my God, it touches his helmet like a fully revving massive wheel.
Are you telling me that Formula One suddenly got exciting again for the first time in ages?
Well, I did watch it because the football had a little break. So I watched from the 25th lap, and it was incredibly exciting because obviously every single Greenpeace dickhead has now said the cars can't make noise anymore. So it's also very, very frustrating to try and watch something that, like, someone nearly died yesterday. And the takeaway really is Lewis Hamilton can now continue not to pay tax by living in Monaco. So all is well.
Oh, thank God. And he didn't end up a vegetable like who's
Schumacher.
The dude Schumacher, Michael Schumacher.
Yeah.
Is he still alive and in a vegetative state? Or
We don't know what's going on there.
And that wasn't even from a Formula One race. That was from skiing.
Yeah, that's scary.
That's unbelievable. Anyway, so Lewis Hamilton's alive, but only by a ball hair, and at least it made it made Formula One a little more interesting. I mean, people watch the crashes. They don't admit it, but that's what they do.
Motorsport is a snore fest. So this is good. Where life and death can meet and the guy survives is great. Good content. Shout out, Lewis.
Of course, those two were actually at the front though, and people are so bored of seeing one of the two of them winning that it made for a little bit of excitement too in the result, because the two of them had caused each other chaos on the tracks. So neither of them could win, right?
No, neither of them. And also Australian Italian heartthrob Danny Ricciardo won, and he always says how good looking he is, and I love that everybody hates Danny Ricciardo. So he's like he's best mates with David Beckham, so he really is sort of an antagonist figure. It's fantastic that he won because everybody hates him, and I love that he won. Yeah.
So DK says more participants die doing Ironman than doing Formula One races. That's true. Ironman, that takes out a lot of people, hey, because they think they can run and swim and cycle and all that stuff, and then they end up just dying while they're doing the Ironman. It's hectic.
You know who needs to run the men's conference for 2021 is men that can keep a marriage going whilst doing Ironman, because like I train long hours, but those guys, I don't know what kind of wife you have. I do not know how you maintain it. Wowzers. Because those training hours are insane. Because it's bike, obviously, swim, and cycle, and you can't fake any of those three disciplines. Yeah,
no, it's you have to be incredibly fit and a bit of you have to be a bit of a lunatic. I mean, it's it's a different level of fitness. It's like a maniacal level of fitness.
Like just do Takeshi's Castle, bro. It's fine. Once, just do that and just keep it moving.
So speaking of keeping it moving, I want to get to this a little later on because I think something Lebang raised is really interesting to me. If you ever look back on your timeline, whether it's on social media or even if you wrote stuff in a diary or a journal from like 10 years ago, and you look at that stuff now and you think, am I even still the same person? Because we evolve and we change. I mean, basically, your personality, I'm reliably informed, stays the same, right? So if you have a certain kind of personality, that's likely to be your personality for the rest of your life. You know, sort of after your teen years, it's kind of solidified and calcified, and that's how you're going to be for the rest of your life. But it would seem to me that there are things that if I look back on the way I used to feel about certain things, the way I used to talk about certain things, the things I said and believed 10 years ago, I almost go, who is this person? This isn't me. You know what I mean?
And that's where like Facebook memories comes in. Because like if you were on Facebook all the way back then, it'll definitely show you on this day in 2010, this is what you said. And sometimes you look and you're like, oh, was that me? Oh man, I'm so glad I don't feel that way anymore. And because it's your personal profile, you're allowed to look on it and feel that way. But now what happens when, for example, you're on Twitter and somebody finds something that you said, which is completely the opposite of how you feel right now. People will find your tweets. The streets don't forget. And I was quite saddened yesterday when a girl that I went to high school with was actually being castrated live on the timeline because of some tweets she said in 2011. No. Well, at the same time, they were a bit much. So the reason why she was the talk of the town yesterday was because in an interview, she said she was basically just hating on broke people and saying, no, where are your parents? You know, you can't be expecting, old rich men to constantly buy you things, do things for yourself. Whereas that wasn't what was being communicated. So the whole of Black Twitter came for her like, hey, first of all, Saba well doesn't mean somebody please buy this for me. It means I'm craving something, number one. Number two, the unemployment rate in South Africa is insane. Not everybody has parents that can afford them this life. So it's just insensitive. So that part, cool, we parked it. Then somebody brought out 2011 tweets of her fat shaming, of her just being completely ugly. And she was just being cancelled left, right, and center. So I literally found myself scrolling all the way back to my 2011 tweets like, yeah, what was I saying? Because I don't want to be caught up in a situation where somebody just pulls something out from your past life. And I mean, we've seen it before where people say things back in the day and they're not the same person.
Yeah, they did this with Trevor Noah when he started doing the Daily Show. And they found some joke he'd made about, I think it was also fat people or something. Or it could have been black people and white people or something else. Anyway, I mean, it's stupid. Look, you know what? I'm very proud of everything that I've said, even if it's tasteless humor. Go back, find whatever you want about me, bring it on. I don't give two shits. Uncancel. I'm not going to let you. I'm going to let you spoil me. I'm not going to take any of that seriously.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Is your friend quite famous? Is she well known?
Yes, that's what I
mean, she's quite famous. Yeah, she's relatively famous. She's one of the biggest influencers right now. She's not my friend. I just went to high school with her. But the shocking thing, Tippy Vundla, the shocking thing is that she's been consistently like that person. My memory of her in high school is that she was definitely like that. Very outspoken, say whatever she wants, whatever. You keep it moving. And 2011 Twitter/social media, it was a few of us who were online. It wasn't the whole, almost what feels like everybody today. Back then, we'd say things and we weren't held accountable, blah, blah, blah. Now that it's grown and it's at the level that it is, you cannot be caught dead saying half the things that you're saying. So it's just interesting. Yes.
Does she have an agent or anything? And I have a huge problem with people that take money from people for essentially doing nothing, is that there is software to clear your social media. There are apps so that when you take somebody on, if you are in this business, and I'm seeing it too much now, as soon as you step into this world, you should clear your history, good or bad, especially Twitter. Clear it.
No,
there's an app.
No, I don't think so.
If this is how you make money, Gareth, then yes.
Gareth, you're saying it because it was for you. You're not going to lose money. I'm saying if your thing is to be popular and you know the landscape.
It's not about losing money. You can't wipe out your archive. You can't wipe out what people already know about you in real life. You can't go into their heads and use that Men in Black thing that clears their memory.
But people live on Twitter.
That's what brands, ultimately, you're representing a brand now. This version of yourself is what the brand is attracted to. They weren't attracted to you when you were saying, when you were fat shaming and stuff.
Why are you changing everything except the problem here? The problem isn't that people say out of character or cruel or vicious or stupid things when they're young. That's what all young people do. You want everything to conform so that you don't get into trouble with Black Twitter. Bullshit. Ignore Black Twitter is the answer. Because in 2 weeks' time it's not going to matter anymore.
Sure, right? But what about the bag? That's where your bag is at, Gareth. Is completely if that's all you're doing is making money off social media and brands. They want to take a picture of you with Kellogg's in there and a picture of you. You have to have a certain,
But this is exactly where the problem comes. I don't think that you can have a long-term career if you want to just be the spokesperson for a brand, because a brand is bland. Most brands are so boring and so careful and so middle of the road and so terrified of saying or doing anything that even remotely attracts controversy at the moment, that they're actually not the people you should be getting money from. So you choose. Either you're going to have a real personality and some character, and you're going to make money in a number of different ways, or you're going to be beholden to some brand, and then they're going to cancel you when anything because they can make up anything. You could even clear your history. You guys know this. You could clear your history. You could come out of a convent and you can have been as pure as the driven snow, and someone will find a reason to, even if they make it up, they'll find a reason to have you put in this position. So why are you letting this bullying become the okay thing and making everybody change their behavior and erase their past? That's nonsense.
Yeah. No, I think with that regard, you're definitely right. She definitely went as far as deleting her Twitter account. She got bullied into a whole corner. I can't imagine that, she's doing okay, because generally, like some of the things that people are saying, it's generally not nice. But the bigger thing is now, how do you react to that kind of thing being said? How do you deal with that situation? And right now, everybody's angry. Everybody's, not feeling the best that they could be feeling. It's post-COVID. We're still low-key in COVID. Everybody feels like they're being attacked. They are literally just like breaking her into pieces online. And it's very sad.
They're not really angry. No one's actually angry with Tshepi Vundla. I don't believe it for a second. It's a bunch of people who are looking for, they're trying to inject themselves into the story. They're fucking idiots. They should be ignored. She should just put her head down for 2 weeks and then come back, and they'll have moved on, because this is not a sensible group of people. The moment that large corporations and serious individuals in society started to take the opinion of Twitter and trending subjects on Twitter seriously, they lost all my respect. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a wrap on that. And when you think about it, Twitter isn't really a real representation of the country, of your consumers, of your market. It's like a small, tiny portion. And the fact that it's so easy just to get on your cell phone and say your piece and just be like, blah, blah, blah. That's just like one little person.
I would do what's the dude from who used to do the insurance commercials?
That guy you're like...
The man dem. He's back. He's back again.
What's his name again? I even forgot his name.
I want to say like Kamogelo, but it's not. It's
no.
Anyway.
Yeah, that guy.
Anyway.
Well, he's back.
He's back. He's suing the ex and her brother or whoever else, and he's gonna fight them. You've got to fight.
Yeah, you've got to fight. Hold people accountable.
Yeah. Find every person on Twitter who has called you something. And have a lawyer's letter sent to them saying, you either apologize now publicly or I'm coming for you. I know it's going to cost him money. Katlego, my boy.
Katlego, yeah.
So you either you fight or you just lie down and take it. And if you lie down and take it, it only takes about 2 weeks, and then you can come back anyway, because they forget.
Yo, I would never delete my Twitter account. I don't care what people say, I would never fold. Like, I cannot. I'd rather just stand and be like, yeah, I said it, so what? What are you going to do? Do you know my address? Are you going to come to my house and hit me? No, you're not. So keep it moving. I would never fold.
It's like what you guys said just now. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you're saying that. But Bulelo is like, clear out the history. You can't change history. It's like it's there. It's like these people who try to rewrite the actual history of humanity. They're like, well, we don't like this story because it makes us look bad, so we'll just pretend that didn't happen and change the history. Change the history textbooks. I'm sorry, all of that stuff happened. There is incontrovertible evidence that it happened. People in the future will discover that you've tried to cover it up, and then you'll look even dumber. So
that's what's happening right now. There's like a bunch of Twitter accounts that I actually, not just Twitter, but there's a bunch of accounts that I follow with like the true African history. And half of the stuff, they try to wipe it out of our textbooks. Half of the stuff almost doesn't exist. But because, as you're saying, you can't cover things up forever. The truth will always come out. I sit there and I'm like, what? In the States, they try to wipe out a whole black society, and then they drowned all these people. What? And the stuff is there. The information is there. You just need to find it. So I agree with you. You can't wipe history. It'll always come out. But the stuff that they've tried to hide, I think we do need to rewrite our history textbooks, Gareth. I'll be honest.
I mean, Jean says, that is why I advise my friends on social media just to post memes. You'll be safe with memes, bro. But that's not even that's not true, because memes, the things that I found funny 10 years ago will get me into huge trouble today. Just stick to your guns. Like, you know what? One day, I promise you, the only thing that you have is to live as authentically as you can, to just be yourself. Because even if people hate you, you know what you're dealing with, and they know what they're dealing with. To pretend, to try and do what Madonna did, if we're coming full circle, and to try to like pander to an audience, is the very lowest of the low. That's probably why it bothers me now that we've gone through the full gamut of what the possible reasons are. What bothers me is like you're trying to be loved, you're trying to be popular, and that's what makes me sad. It's like you don't need to do that because it's not real love anyway. Those people who pretend they care about you because you're dressed a certain way or you do a certain thing on the internet, or those people don't actually love you. They're not going to be there when shit goes down. They don't care about your welfare or your happiness or your well-being or the balance or the imbalance that you've got in your life. They just look at you as a resource for that day that provides them with either entertainment or satisfaction or laughter or whatever it might be. But they don't care about you. And you'd be an idiot to think for a second that those people cared about you. And that goes for Madonna as much as it does for someone on Twitter. Stop it.
Yeah.
You just stick to your guns. Be you.
Yeah.
You'll only ever be the second best somebody else, but you can only be the best you. I mean, for God's sake.
Absolutely. It's this obsession with being liked, Gareth. And I think this is something that should be put in life orientation. When I think back to primary school, what did I actually learn in LO? Why didn't they teach us how unimportant it is to care about being liked by people? Because that probably would have helped growing up. And now more than ever.
You can't tell people who've never got a hug from their father or didn't get any love from their mother. Or you can't tell those people, you can't have a teacher stand up in front of them and say, stop worrying about what other people think of you. Because they don't know what that means. All they're doing is they're walking through life. Sometimes they're 63 like Madonna and they're still looking for a hug from their dad. And that's exactly her problem if you look at her history. I mean, I'm no psychologist, but that's what happened there. Papa don't preach. And screw me, but how many years later she's still hoping Papa's not preaching because she feels bad about certain things or she didn't get enough of this. And no money has solved her problems. That's the other thing, by the way. Yeah, money's not going to come and make you feel better. Even if I give it to you if I give it to you in bags and bags and you have millions in the bank like Madonna does, but you still want love. You still crave attention. It's sad, man. And I see this happening on the micro level with people on Twitter, and I see it happening with these huge celebrities who dress up for the Met Gala or want to be in a commercial, or they walk around telling everybody they're an Instagram model when they're actually just on OnlyFans. You know, stop it. It's just your craving for love makes you so unattractive. It makes you look so desperate that you may as well be a 63-year-old woman dressing up in a leather mini skirt, getting up on stage at the VMAs and just craving some attention from fucking people who don't know you. Sad.
It's very sad. But then where must I get this attention, Gareth? I've spent all my life craving it. Nobody's given it to me. I always look on the outside of my immediate, whatever for this attention, and I don't get it. This is how I'm going to act.
Well, then you deserve whatever comes to you. And frankly, if you prioritize attention over other things, like real relationships, like purpose, like balance, like a skill or a talent or something you want to develop about yourself, if you prioritize just getting random attention from people, then you deserve whatever comes to you. And it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be nice. British American Tobacco have negotiated a bribe, or had in the past negotiated a bribe for Mugabe. New evidence suggests. How's this? Listen to this. So British American Tobacco, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, they were involved in negotiations to pay between $300,000 and $500,000 to Mugabe's Zanu-PF party back in 2013. What do you think of that?
Worst kept secret on earth. We already knew that, because if you go to Zim and you see how BAT is actually one of the better functioning companies in Africa, I got two friends who work there. Come on, how did that happen? Come on now. They're paid to do business because it's cheap labor and it's great soil. It is great soil. So
yeah, they grow they grow some of the best tobacco in the world, right?
Absolutely. But we knew this. What are we doing? Let's not. Come on now. It's like we're shocked when they stole the PPE money. Come on.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Sorry, I'm just dealing with some sound issues on this side, so I'm just trying to figure that out. Okay, so they apparently paid Mugabe some kind of a bribe, or they were going to. where that was the cost. You know, they were like, oh, well, if you want to do this, this is how much it's going to cost you. And that was the amount of money involved, up to $500,000. It's not even that much. The documents also reveal BAT was paying bribes in South Africa and using illegal surveillance to damage rivals.
Lol.
Not good. Yeah, not good. So there's a network of almost 200 secret informants in South Africa who are on the payroll. How's that for interesting?
Sure.
Anyway, this is a story from the BBC. So I mean, it's not some local publication who's going after them. That's an interesting development. So there we go. There's some info that you didn't perhaps know today. California recall vote. Gavin Newsom, and I mentioned this in our little diatribe earlier about stupid celebrities and what's going on in California. So Caitlyn Jenner, who everybody made such a fuss over, they reckon that if Caitlyn Jenner gets any votes at all, it'll be like 1% of the total vote. So I don't even know why we're paying attention to this moron. Caitlyn Jenner is not a serious contender. It's not a serious discussion. It's not something we need to do.
You said that about Arnold.
No, this is not Arnold. We're talking about an Olympic decathlete who now wears a dress and walks around pretending he's a woman. It's bullshit, man. Come on. What are you talking about? This is not... Arnold Schwarzenegger was a champion at the time that he ran for governor. He'd been in some A-list movies. He was one of Hollywood's most enduring successes. He'd also been Mr. Universe.
Caitlyn Jenner also performed in Keeping Up with the Kardashians. That's definitely also being in a show that's acting. It's a skill.
Except that none of the people who watch that show even know how to vote. They're such idiots. So they're not going to be pitching at the polls. Anyway, you can't compare the two. And people say that Gavin Newsom, this pretty boy, that's what they call him in California, has too freely spent taxpayer dollars. He has run the state into a complete nightmare. There are more homeless people in California now than in any other state in America. They literally have built toilets on the side of highways just for the homeless people to shit and piss. That's what he thinks is running a state. Places like San Francisco and Los Angeles are so expensive to live in now. The rent is so high. The cost of property is so high that unless you are a millionaire, you live in squalor. It's a horrible place to live. And this is a state which is now seeing net emigration. Kind of like, you know, when countries go bad and people leave the countries and go to other countries, it's a sure sign that the country's not being run well. Well, that's happening in California. People are leaving the state of California for places like Idaho, which is not even Idaho. There's nothing in Idaho. It's like a bunch of horses. There's nothing else going on there. Anyway, so they say that he'll be replaced by somebody else if this recall goes the way that they expect it to go. And that other person could be someone I had on my TV show this year, a guy called Larry Elder, who's a radio and television personality, but he's also a Republican. He's a black man who's very proud of his background in South Central LA, but he's also somebody who prides himself on a good education, and he believes he can run the state properly. Although, if he's a Republican and he wins in California, it'll be the funniest thing ever, because California is pretty much 99% Democrat. So if he wins this, it'll be a miracle. But go Larry Elder. Let's see what happens there. That's what's happening in the news in America. The Western Cape. Well done to them. The Western Cape continuing to be the province that gets things done quicker and better than anyone else. Wonder why that is. They vaccinated more than 1 million people just last week. How's that? Nobody else can compete with that number at the moment. And then our friends, the Taliban. I mean, we love hearing about the Taliban, right?
Absolutely.
Taliban co-founder has released an audio statement after rumors.
Sorry, that's unbelievable. Because it's not Microsoft, but the way they've said it, it's like, you know, it's like, oh, you know, Steve Jobs, Wozniacki, or whatever. You know, when you go Microsoft, Bill Gates, and you know what I mean? It's the co-founder. Boom! Like, imagine him coming out to lights. Bump, 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 bump. All right, Osama bin Laden, ladies and gentlemen. Bump, 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 bump.
We're launching a new upgrade today. Are you ready for a little upgrade? So here he is. That's the guy. That's what he looks like. That's the Taliban co-founder that I've put up on the screen now. Let me tell you the story about him, because this is obviously fascinating stuff. Abdul Ghani Baradar, who was last week named as number 2 to Mullah Muhammad Hassan Akhund, blamed fake propaganda for the death rumors that had been posted about him. In India, among other places, they've been in a frenzy over speculation where rumors swirled that he had been mortally wounded in a shootout between rival Taliban factions at the presidential palace. There'd been news in the media about my death, he said in the clip. Over the past few nights, I've been away on trips. Wherever I am at the moment, we're all fine, my brothers and friends. Media always publish fake propaganda. Therefore, reject bravely all those lies. Doesn't this sound like Trump going, fake news, it's fake news, right?
The Taliban is dead. Long live the Taliban, says, what's the guy's name? That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a wild
That's what
world.
it is. Meanwhile, Madonna has said she will happily fly over to Afghanistan to be a part of any kind of media effort that they want to make because she just is desperate for attention.
Madonna, rest.
I know, she must take a break. So that is all the news that you need to know for this morning. There's obviously some other stuff going on, but that's the most important stuff. I want to turn our attention now to our friend Phil, who's from DeWitt Motors, Phil Coetzer, and we've spoken to him a couple of times now. DeWitt Motors are in Ermelo, but don't let that put you off because you could buy cars from them anywhere in the country. And Phil sells lots and lots of very sexy cars. In fact, I spent a day with Phil and a whole lot of his other clients and customers and friends at the track. We went to the racetrack here at Swartkop Raceway, and we had an amazing day. I drove one of my favorite cars in the whole world, got to see some extremely sexy vehicles, and also got to see how much Phil actually knows about this stuff, which is pretty damn cool. How are you, Phil?
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. I did a sound check yesterday with some P-Way, so I sound better this time.
You sound good. Yeah, you sound and you look good there. Are you in the office again?
Yeah. Quickly, early morning.
Starting early. All right. So first of all, Phil, thanks for that track day the other day. That was a whole lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. Yeah.
We learned to do some advanced driving. Bulelo, you'll be pleased to hear about this. I didn't do any Max Verstappen over Lewis Hamilton driving, but we went really fast around the track. I got to drive easily one of my favorite cars in the whole world ever. And Phil knows I'm obsessed with these things. The Mercedes-Benz GT, which is just, oh God, it's a sexy car. This thing is just, it's fast. It's beautiful on the inside. It's luxurious, but it's also a real, like, this is a vehicle that has been designed for speed and for function. And the sound it makes is just heavenly. I mean, Phil, you've obviously been in a couple of these before, but that's probably the first time I've driven one. It's amazing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, we were fortunate. I mean, as soon as the vehicles were launched, we were fortunate, obviously, to sell some of those, which is great.
You have?
And then, yes, well, yeah. I mean, they've been around for a couple of years now. I think there's been one or two facelifts or model year changes since they've been brought to South Africa. So yeah. I mean, obviously, it's an expensive vehicle. A little bit impractical if you're staying, in a rural area with our terrible roads these days. But
potholes,
I mean, absolutely, yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. I think besides the fact that you are driving fast and expensive vehicles, I'm sure you've also learned something about safety-wise, how other people might think on the road, and how you will act accordingly if you get into those situations.
I mean, we spent the morning on the track, and in the afternoon we were on the skid pan. And I don't know if you've done this, Lebang or Bulelo, but one of the fun things about being on that skid pan is you can actually make the car dance a little bit. Like, you can figure out what to do. You know how people often on the highway, they will go through water when there's heavy rain or something, and they'll lose control of the car, and it can be very, very dangerous. You can smash into barriers, other cars. You might get out of control if you're going too fast or if you're going too slowly, frankly. And you learn how to control the vehicle, and you learn some pretty amazing, even though they're counterintuitive moves in a car. It's great stuff, right, Phil? I mean, how long have you been doing these track days? Because you seem to know your stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been with Mercedes now for about 20 years. So I started off at head office and in the marketing team. So we were fortunate to do those events quite often. Especially there in Swartkop, hosting customers, hosting press, and those kind of things. So yeah, we've done it a couple of times. And obviously, not with these vehicles. I mean, we started off with the C32 AMG, which was more or less the first fast vehicle or AMG vehicle that came to South Africa. And then they started the ADA, or the Advanced Driving Academy. There I've met you. So yeah, met up with you. Yeah. So yeah, we've done it a couple of times.
Mercedes have a whole like pavilion up there, and I think they do a lot of their test driving there as well. They've got a really great team of people. We were being shown around by a guy called Mo, who's just like, this guy knows his cars like you can't believe, and he was showing us all the tricks of, how much you need to turn, which lines you have to hit going around the track. If you want to turn this corner optimally, you need to be going at this speed. You need to take that line. It's really cool stuff. And you get out of it at the end, and you actually know a whole lot more about how to handle a car and what these cars, frankly, are capable of.
Sorry, guys. I don't know, my iPads, my AirPods dropped, so can you still hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Don't worry. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm good.
So,
sorry, Gareth, I just missed your last question.
No, I want to know about that Maybach that we were looking at, because this is unbelievable luxury. So, in case you haven't seen one of these before, apparently there are only a few in the country, let alone the world. This is like the super, super luxury, top of the range. This is the stuff that like presidents drive. This is not the kind of car that ordinary people get to see all that often. And just sitting in the back of it, I mean, it's got like TV screens. It's got this like a bar with a little fridge in it that will chill your champagne, and then it's got two little holders for the champagne glasses. I mean, it's just luxury on the next level. Phil, how many of those are there in the country? Do you even know?
Well, very, very few though. So this vehicle is brand new. I mean, I think the one that we saw was more or less one of the first in the country. So they are getting in drips and drabs, but I will guess around about 20 probably in our country. Yeah.
Wow, it's quite a lot. I would have thought it was only like maybe 5, but that's amazing. So it's
enough for the year. So yeah, I mean, if you take that into account, yeah, it's not much. It's not a lot. So yeah.
What do you categorize that as, an SUV?
Well, yes, yeah. I mean, I think it's his first time where they've brought on an SUV which has like the luxury of an S class, and I think that was the aim from Mercedes. Right. So to get you that comfort, I showed you that the chair that goes into a bed. Remember the left seat in the rear.
Yeah.
Whoa! What?
Listen to this, Lebang. It folds down into a bed, like a first class seat on an airplane, on a fancy airliner.
Yeah.
And it actually almost fully flat. And then there mustn't be a person in the front passenger seat, because they'll be in the way. And you fold that down, and you can basically have a sleep if you're on a long road trip. It's amazing. And really, it's got like plush carpets all over the place. There's a little step that comes out, like the Queen when she gets out of her Bentley.
And they zoom in on the foot, and then there's this nice red carpet vibe. Yeah, that's it.
This little step comes out, and then it folds back in under the car when you've climbed out of it. I mean, it's just pure luxury.
Phil, where can I sign up for one of those? I've got 4 kids, so I'm a huge Mercedes fan. I just actually recently got the GLS, so I'm quite happy with it. But if I can get something that can actually turn like into a bed vibe, where I can just plonk the kids in there, what am I looking at price wise? Just between me and you, let's be realistic here. I work at Cliff Central, so
Go on, tell her.
I need to give you a heads up there. Remember, if you turn the left rear seat into a little bed, I mean, your space is quite limited. So the rest of the kids needs to be in the trailer in the back or something like that. So they're not gonna sit lacquer. But yeah, I mean, price wise, I mean, depending, I mean, there's obviously a load of extras you can spec the vehicle with as well. Up to 500,000-600,000 rand worth of extras, with a whole lot of stuff included in the car already. But are you looking around about 3.5?
3.5 million.
4 million.
Yeah. Nothing.
That's really good.
And you can finance.
Now let's just come back. Let's come back to reality, Phil, because I've been driving that short wheelbase Pajero of yours for a little while now, and I've really enjoyed driving it. It's a fun little car. I remember when you gave me that car to drive, you said that they're selling like hotcakes and that people really love them. Do you have any left?
Well, I mean, the whole reason was, I mean, and I think we had a chat on your show about it as well. The Pajero was and will always be an icon of Mitsubishi.
Yes.
That was the vehicle they started off with originally, without buckies and small vehicles and so forth. And the thing is, I mean, they've stopped making them. It's relatively an old technology vehicle, but it's super reliable. And I mean, the people that have driven them and bought them in the past, I mean, we had a lot of those customers that have just changed it and just bought a new one because they are finished now. And the short wheelbase in specific, I mean, as a I mean, that was more popular around the female customers. I mean, they used to buy them quite a bit. So, and then, I mean, obviously, as soon as they stopped production on them, then it became, a collector's item, if I can put it that way. So, and then, I mean, when the last one was sold, then there's nothing left, and obviously, usually what happens after that, the prices will go up. So what kind of an increase in price are we talking about? If I had bought one when you told us to last year, what would have happened to the price there? You'll probably get 100,000 Rand more for the car now. Yeah. That's
a pretty good investment. I mean, if you put money into a share and somebody said you're going to make 100,000 Rand off of that share that you put some money into, and you got that out, you'd think you'd done pretty well. That's amazing. This is where you guys who know about the prices of cars and who deal with them every day, this is where you guys are the experts. It's amazing.
That's actually so interesting.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, we've got another example. I mean, your Mercedes X-Class buckies. I mean, Gareth, you also
yes, I drove
one.
Yeah.
I mean, same story there. As soon as the production stopped, I mean, there's not going to be a facelift bucky or a new shape bucky. It's a Mercedes bucky and it's done forever. So as soon as production stopped, as soon as the last one was sold, prices went up with 200,000, 300,000. So it's supply and demand. It's actually common sense, but yeah.
Sure. I'm so glad I'm here for this conversation. Like my dad has a Pajero, which like is just sitting and rotting, and he doesn't know what to do with it. He doesn't know where to fix it. And I remember I drove a Mitsubishi Lancer for like the most part of my driving years. So I know what a good car that is. So I'm going to get on the line with him after this conversation and be like, yo, bro, like we're in the money. We're in the big league. Just don't sell it. Just leave that bad boy where it is. We're going to be rich.
Yeah. Gareth, tell me what did you think of the EQC, the electric vehicles there on ADA?
Wow, because we were among the first people in the country to see those, right?
Correct. I mean, we were, I mean, they've been around for, I will also say, around about a year in South Africa. There's been a press launch or two, but I mean, no one has driven them besides the press. So we are one of the first in South Africa that actually drove them as normal citizens, So
amazing. Well, first of all, I love them, but first thing is that you get into them and you don't realize the engine's on because it's dead quiet. So I switched it off and then I had to switch it back on because you can't even hear the thing is going. And it drives beautifully. I mean, my God, we raced it down the track as well, and it just goes like a bomb. And it's just the most beautiful thing on the inside. The amazing thing about what technology, and we often talk to George about this, what technology has done to vehicles is it's just made them these very high. You almost feel like you're in a spaceship. We lost Phil. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Phil? You almost feel like you're in a spaceship, right?
No, I agree.
No.
Sure. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, obviously your 0 to 100 is also it's way different than a normal internal combustion engine.
Sure, that's quicker. That's the funny thing, is you'd expect it to not be, but it's quicker. All right, listen, we got to wrap this up, guys. It's 7:00. Phil, thank you very much for joining us again, and good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll talk again soon. You can find out more about DeWitt Motors. You can just go onto cliffcentral.com. We'll post all the links there too. And hey, if you're looking for info, if you want to talk to someone who knows what they're doing, if you are interested in buying a car, a new car or a used car, or you're interested in finding out what's going on in the market, these are the guys to talk to. So give Phil a call. Now you've met him on the show, so you can call and he'll be able to help you. Thanks very much, man. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your week. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. There we go. There's Phil. So it looks like you've got some money sitting in a garage somewhere there, Lebang.
Ha 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 ha.
Very nice. Very, very nice. All right. When we come back, we will be getting into a whole bunch of things, including Gareth Woods, his brand new book. He's a comedian, he's a gamer, he's a business owner, he's a father and a husband. And he's written a book about what video games can teach us about the game of life. And this could be really interesting for parents, especially those parents who are worried the kids spend too much time in front of the screen. He says it's not all bad. He says you can learn some really useful skills that way. We'll find out what those skills are coming up next.
Coming up on Auto Central. We've got a special guest in virtual studio today, Cabello Raboto. Did I say that right, Cabello?
Yeah, that's great, George. No problem.
Welcome to the show. And Cabello is a country director for Nissan South Africa, and is going to tell us a little bit about his own career and a little bit about Nissan South Africa, specifically maybe the new Navara, and some of the technology in those cars. But today we're going to be unpacking everything Nissan South Africa, and from its current state to upcoming projects to lockdown impact, and maybe some exclusive insights that Cabello can give us.
Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Broken glass, broken hearts, all the hurt, all the scars, fading out, gone for good. You finally found yourself, you finally understood that you need it more, so you're getting up, you wipe the dirt and you shake the dust. They'll never get the best of us, you're unbreakable.
Yo, I put it like wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me, I hope they know by now.
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday morning, cliffcentral.com, the 14th of September. You with me and Lebang and Bolelo. And we've got lots to talk about this morning. I just want to quickly remind you, we've got a really cool interview coming up with the First Lady of South Africa. That's right. She is the First Lady. She's married to the president, but she's also a patron of the Early Care Foundation. She's the patron of the Early Care Foundation. And she's an incredible woman. She doesn't do a lot of interviews. I don't know that I've ever seen her doing any other interviews. But tomorrow at 8 a.m. You will be able to hear our discussion. And she's in the interview, she shares her thoughts and her passion about the importance of the Early Care Foundation and what they do for kids in South Africa. There'll also be a video on YouTube and a podcast available for you to check out as well. So all of that's coming up tomorrow. Lebang was there too. That was the famous person we should have got a picture of you with, right? And we didn't.
But we slept on the game. But either way, I was just happy to be in her presence. She is actually just a human being. To be honest, you're downplaying it, Gareth. It's an exclusive. It's an exclusive interview with the First Lady. Yes, South Africa, we have a First Lady, and she actually spoke to us. So you definitely want to be here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I'm going to tune in. Even though I was there, I just want to rewatch it because it was so dope. Like, she's a person. She doesn't take herself, in that high regard as you would assume she would. She literally is so relatable. She is just, when you talk to her, you're like, yeah, this is a South African. This is a person. You don't feel like you're speaking to somebody who is way high above you. And I love that about her. And she's generally passionate about kids and, as you said, the early development and how kids grow in their early years. And it just comes out naturally and organically. She's not putting on a front. She's not acting like something she isn't. So I'm very, very happy that I met her. I am literally hoping that I can see her again soon so I can get that picture. But I'm keen to relive that experience.
Well, I mean, the work that this Early Care Foundation does is really important. And if you can get involved or you can help, we'll tell you how to do that too in the interview. But what they do is, apart from take kids out of houses where the parents, for example, have both got to work, or the child-headed household, and there's no one to look after these kids, and that's a big problem in South Africa. Takes them out of those environments and put them in an environment where they can be looked after, they can be supervised, they can learn, they can play, they can develop their little brains and get things going really early, because we know how important that stuff is. If you don't have that as a child in your early first 1,000 days, then you're going to be a mess later on. There's no way you can catch up on that time. Plus, they help these kids because they give them food. And, for a lot of them, malnutrition is a real problem.
Yeah.
So
They train the teachers as well. So it's a whole 360 thing. On one aspect, Gareth, is the actual child and the things that the child isn't necessarily getting directly from within the household. And then on the other end of the Early Care Foundation, they look after the teachers that are in charge of these kids. So I like that it's this nice 360 process. My favorite thing is that anybody can get involved. Anybody can assist. You don't need to physically be there yourself training these kids or whatever. You can just put in your bit because it's such an important time for children to grow. So I'm keen. I think it's really, really dope. It's a dope initiative.
If I could have it my way, all of those social grants would be going to children and not to anyone else. Because if you're a grown adult and you can't find a way to make yourself useful in society, that's on you. But a little child, that's totally not on them. You can't hold them responsible. And they should be the ones who get that small grant to be able to just have someone look after them, to get one good meal a day, make sure that they're in a safe environment where they're not going to be predated upon by all these crazy adults. And they can learn, they can develop, they can become the next generation of people who will save this country. That's important.
No doubt.
All right.
No doubt.
So a couple of things to get into this morning. There's rather a lot on the agenda. So Lebang's going to explain why she wants to talk about this, because this is a hell of a thing. Parental favoritism. It's something you brought up on your show the other day, Life with Lebang, which, by the way, is on a Thursday morning at 11. And you didn't get a good reaction from your mother about this parental favoritism. So just explain what happened.
So obviously I've been doing radio for a couple of years, and when I was still at YFM a few years ago, like my mom would always be like, yeah, we definitely listen to your show, we support you, and you're not gonna really go back and check. You can't even check if they really did or not, so you just kind of keep it moving. So when I started Life with Lebang at Cliff Central, like now it's a podcast. And now it's like she'll say to me, where's the link? Blah, 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 blah. So I know she's definitely listening. And I did an episode about parental favoritism because I grew up, in a household with two brothers, and I was sandwiched in between the two of them. And I was very honest in that podcast about my experience. I was very honest about some of the facts around parental favoritism, and how I knew that my mom actually listened was like 2 days after it went live. She just sends me a message. She's like, hey, so parental favoritism, I listened to your show. I was like, shit. So she goes, I didn't know you felt that way. But anyway, it was interesting. I was like, Mom, I love you, blah, blah.
To back it up for a second, did you say in the recording, during your show that one of your brothers was her favorite, or that both of your brothers were her favorite, and that you didn't feel looked after and cared for enough? Is that what happened?
Not in so many words. I mean, guys, I don't script, my shows. I say what's in my heart, and it just sort of comes out like that. So I had to go back and re-listen. I just kind of summed it up nicely and said, look, I know that I wasn't the favorite. I know that I'm still not the favorite. And, statistically, as a parent, once you've got a favorite child, that child is always going to be your favorite. And I had to be honest, because...
But why are you not the favorite? Well, what did you do for your parents not to like you as much as your brothers?
It's not that my parents don't like me. They dig me. I'm cool. It's just that, my mother has this bond with my brothers that I can't take away from her. And it's cool. Like, I specifically said it's cool. Like, I'm not touched. I let it go. I've made peace with it. She clearly is touched because she's claiming she didn't know that I felt that way. And I'm like, you kind of have known, bro.
No parent wants to be accused of having a favorite, because
absolutely
in their own heads, every parent has this perfect objectivity. They're like, oh no, all my kids are different and I love them all. But they're like, if you catch a parent in a very honest place, if you're talking, maybe even if they're a bit drunk, like this happened with a friend of mine the other day. I asked her, like, come on, do you think it's possible for parents to have a favorite child? And then they admit it. They go, yeah, totally. That is absolutely the thing. No.
Yeah, it's quite a thing. So on one end, I'm now a parent. I've got 4. I know I don't want to choose a favorite. In the show, I specifically say I try to give them all equal love, but not like break it down. I give them all 100%. I don't give them like 25, 25, 25, 25. And then, at the same time, I said to my mom when I saw her afterwards there's no such thing as a perfect parent. It's okay. You can't always get everything right as a parent. I'm not expecting you to. Just know that this was my experience. But she kind of just denied the whole thing. She's like, no, I treat you all equally. I love you all the same. Like, it's okay, dude. You're not going to always get it right. I still love you and you still love me, and that's what counts. So it's just trying to get my mom to realize that, she'll never be the perfect parent and there's no such thing. And she just needs to accept that. She's in denial completely. She's still 100% believes that she gave us all the same attention and same affection and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it's definitely not the case, but it's an ongoing topic on Life with Lebang. So on the first part, I spoke about growing up in a household where I definitely wasn't the favorite. And in the second part, I'm just going to unpack, what it's like having so many kids and being in that situation where it's like, oh, but this child is like, oh my word. And then, on the same day, it's a lot.
But what did you do? You keep saying you're not the favorite so I just quickly want to tell you before you answer, or maybe you don't want to answer, which is also fine, so in my household, it's so strange to me. Like, my parents are, if there's one thing in my household I grew up in, is clear communication from very early. So my mother always said this, and she said it to my sister face to face, is I love both of you equally, but my son, it means he's the first one. So I love you equally, but not the same. So that's what my mother always said. My father was always very clear. My sister's the favorite because my sister is so my father's thing was always, you don't thank me with your words. My father always said, if I give you an opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity. I'm not interested in you saying thank you and doing a big parade in front of him. He doesn't do that. If I give you an opportunity, take care of it. So in my 20s, when I was delinquent, my father was very clear. You're out. Sorry. And I'm cool with that. I kind of like that. Whereas my mom was always clear. I love both of you equally, not the same. So for me, I know what I did in order for my. What did you do? Because you did something. You must have been some way, somehow.
Look, I don't think there's anything specific I did. And I like what you said, that your parents told you. So from the onset, you knew what you were getting yourself into. My issue was that my mom believes that she's doing everything equally, when really that's not the case. So it's not what I did or didn't do. It's that denial that, no, but I'm definitely, all of them, same treatment, same punishment, same everything. Whereas, come on, dude, the proof is definitely in the pot of soup. We are not getting the same treatment. So that's kind of where I drew that from.
But were you a shithead? Because I was a shithead. So
definitely.
I'm very clear. Oh, so you were a shithead. Okay.
I was a shithead, but I wasn't the shittiest. There's that shit that you can, you can just be like, okay, that's some shit. Then there's like, woo, but that's some shit though. I was like that's some shit.
Yeah, but also, I mean, so you're the only girl, right?
Mm.
So maybe there was a little bit of softness, and it might even have seemed like favoritism. So in my family, it's also 2 boys and a girl. So my sister, I think she's my dad's favorite, and that would be fine with me. And I think my brother, the middle one, is my mom's favorite, and that's also fine with me. I promise you, I don't bear any grudge. I tease them about it the whole time. Of course, they deny it, but I think, you know what? Having been the eldest, I also got all the love right at the start. I had lots of grandparents around when I was little, so I don't feel any lack of love. But I do
Who's
think it's
the richest
hilarious
in your family, Gareth, of you kids? Because that also works with
that plays a factor.
No, it plays. Probably. And we must stop pussyfooting around it. Whoever is the most successful and can make your parents' life soft, and rightfully so.
I think my brother.
Oh, sorry, man, Gareth. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Gareth. Yeah.
But you also understand, like, there are a whole lot of things that come into this. For example, my brother and my mom's personalities are very similar as well. Whereas my dad and my sister and I are very different. We've got more of the similar personality. And then there's even family resemblances. Like my mom's side of the family has come through quite strongly in my brother. Whereas with my sister and I, it's clear that we are our father's children, And I think all of that is really, it's just, even though I like to tease about it, it's not important, and it certainly doesn't keep me up at night, and everybody feels equally loved. And my parents always did give us exactly the same amount of love and attention and care and all the rest of it. And my mother gets really angry when I talk about my brother being her favorite, but I kind of think that she gets angry because it's maybe true. Anyway, I love the fact that in families you have these dynamics.
It's different personalities.
Listen to Dude 69. He says, my mom used to wait till the other 5 weren't around. Then she would say that I was her favorite. But I knew she would say it to all the other 5 when I wasn't around.
Yep. Moms be like that. They be like that.
I thought I wasn't my mom's favorite, says Thorrence, until she passed away, and then I found out I was. Oh, wow. How did you find that out? That's interesting.
Yeah. Do you think she left a letter? Oh my God, that'll be. Imagine if you know how when people pass, you're all emotional, and if Thorrence has maybe 2 or 3 brothers or sisters, imagine reading that letter with them. Oh my God! Like now you can't even. You
don't want that. Carl says, I was a model son my whole life, head boy, etc. My little brother was a shit, and now he's the favorite. Explain that.
Thank you. Exactly. Like all of a Sunday, like man of the hour, you've been crappy, man.
It must be so hard. Lebang, you've got 4 kids. How do you keep it equal? Because sometimes one of them is going through that tricky stage. Like, between 2 and 3 kids are impossible. And then when they hit their teenage, they become impossible again. And I mean, those are very general categories, but sometimes also maybe one of the kids is having a tougher time at school, not enjoying it so much. So they're being very tricky and they're giving you extra admin. And so that kid kind of slips down the rungs for a few days. How do you keep it even?
Look, I'll tell you off the bat. Number one, like kids are generally not the same. They all have, I live with 4 different personalities in tiny human form, number one. Number 2, days are generally not the same. There's days when I wake up and I'm like, oh, I love you, child number 2, you're doing God's work, blah, blah, blah. And then there's days when I'm like, yo, child number 2, what are you doing to me right now? And honestly, I'm still figuring it out. I'll be honest. It's probably like an ongoing thing. But as far as I can tell right now in my journey of how not to have a favorite child is that days aren't the same. When the child needs you in that moment, if they are struggling with something, just stop everything and just be there for that child. What's difficult is when more than one needs me in that exact moment. So, for example, last night, my 2-year-old who's going through like the terrible two-face, is screaming in this ear because I'm holding my 8-month-old here on this side. So my 2-year-old wants me to also pick her up. And then my 7-year-old walks in because he just got back from school and he's in tears because somebody bullied him. That's when I stop and I'm like, yo, all that sex, was it really worth? That's when I'm like, okay, this is a lot. But it's in those moments where I just need to figure it out and kind of just hone things and not just be like, okay, you stop and then just give this one. I just have to find a way to make everybody feel okay. And as I said, it's ongoing. I won't lie. There's days when I'm like, ooh, that one, woo, wait, that's my baby. And then there's days when I'm like, oh my word, that same one that was my baby yesterday is now just making me want to, like really hurt myself. So days aren't the same. At the end of it all, it's all just a beautiful thing to watch because it's a part of life,
Is there a way for us to imbibe in children that we don't have to like you? Like parents don't have to like you.
You have to tell kids you like them. No, you can't. It's like that's rejection. You tell a child of 3 or 4 that, and it'll stick with them for the rest of their lives. You're causing major psychological problems for them. Now, they have to know their parents love them. They have to know that. Otherwise, they have there's no safe place for them. Yeah.
But if your parents don't like you, who the hell's going to like you?
But I'm saying this at 35 is I can understand my father's frustration with me in hindsight. When I look at my... Is what I'm saying. It's like,
if he'd said to you, I hate you at like age 16.
I didn't say that. I didn't say
you wouldn't be here right now on the show talking to us if your dad said that to you.
I didn't say parents must go and say you're the worst thing that's ever happened to me. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just as society, can we imbibe in children that you're not special? Or do we need to just keep going that direction?
No, dude.
Mbulelo, that's for much later. I mean, you want to counterbalance. Look, in the beginning, all that a kid needs when it's very little is love. And again, I'm saying this as a non-parent, so you correct me where I'm wrong, Lebang. All you need to give them is love. Make them feel like they belong in that family, like they're special to you as a parent, that you'll do anything for them. And then later on in life, you start to explain to them, actually, there's a whole bunch of shit you need to do for yourself. Actually, having my approval on every single thing isn't the most important.
It's not important, but finding a balance is what's key. So in as much as within the household, it's love lives here, everything you do is great, blah, blah, blah. You have to be honest with your child. You have to tell them that, look, outside of the world that you know in this house is the real world. People are going to be mean. People are going to be ugly. People are going to be nasty. You have to sort of raise them to have those expectations of not everybody is your parent. Not everybody's going to just shower you with love. Some people aren't going to like you. Some people aren't going to understand why you have a rash, and they're going to make fun of you. But just learn to deal with that. And then when they're older, when they're 35 or whatever the case is, you can tell them straight up that, you were actually a little shit, but you're an adult. We can laugh it off. I still ultimately love you. I may have not liked you, but I still loved you. That's the difference. Just finding that balance. But when they're a kid, it has to be all love, bro.
So I tell you what, my mom's coming to Joburg tragically in the next 2 weeks or so. And she did a second PhD, so a second doctorate in early childhood development. So I'll see if I can get in the studio and we can kind of
please.
I would love to have that.
Please.
She's not keen, but we'll push for it.
I have questions for her.
Johan says, Mom used to tell us, I will always love you, but today, because of your behavior, I don't like you. Obviously, we were old enough to understand the difference. That's great. I think that makes a lot of sense. Jean says, Mbulelo is going to be a very interesting parent one day.
Hey!
I think I'll be too soft. I've kind of already seen what I'm like with my very, very young nieces and nephews. I'm extremely, because as I'm getting older, I realize, like a lot of people think I don't realize that I'm unreasonable on people, right? Because I'm extremely demanding on adults. But with children, I'm way the other way. I think it'll be a complete nightmare. I'll probably have they'll probably work at an NGO and have colorful hair in a book, by 21. They'll be those kids.
Corona's Boring says, Mbulelo, however, I wouldn't hold it against your dad if he said those things.
He's a straight talker. Well, he doesn't. He is of all the humans I've ever met, and I've met some serious straight talkers. My dad doesn't mince his words, but he is, if anything, honest. You're never getting a lie from him.
Tip Tipsivity says, my mom used to pray out loud in front of us kids. Lord, give me patience, not strength, because I will donor these kids dead.
Woo, it gets real sometimes.
Raising a teenager is tough, says MB. To get them to be self-reliant in a time where everything is instant and on demand in so many aspects of their lives. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Beth says, but you need to be soft with children, small ones. When they get a bit older, you get a bit firmer. Yeah, I think that's...
Who's that chef? Is it Jamie Oliver? That one who's like really, really voice? And then
Ramsay.
like when he's... Ramsay.
Gordon
Ramsay. And then when he's with his kids, he's like a whole different person. Like, okay, what you do is you crack the egg like this and you let it loose. But with adults, he's like, Mulele, that's you, bro.
Yeah, but that's right. I mean, with adults, you shouldn't have to be soft.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing actually sadder than like a weak, soft, pathetic adult who you can see has been raised like in cotton wool and has no idea of what the world's really all about. Sad. That's depressing. Makes me, you know, it's disappointing. That's the thing. It's when you see someone like that who's just got no, they've got no tenacity. They've got no strength of character because everything has just been easy for them. Horrible.
No cojones.
That's as bad as a psychopath.
It's so funny that you're putting it this way. So I was at a mentor's house on the weekend, and he kind of mentored my old man, and we were just talking about some people I'm struggling with, and he said, I need to bring down the intensity. So what you're saying is so interesting to me because I don't know what to do with people that aren't intense. Like if you don't have passion, I don't know what to do. Like move, like for me, I just like to steamroll or get out of my way. But I was talking to Rena yesterday about it as well. It's like sometimes I just get off the pedal, and it's so interesting that you're saying I don't know what to do with people where I got to be soft. It's like, wake up.
I don't think it's too much to say, and I'll repeat what I said just a second ago. Those people who are really, really soft and have just got no backbone at all, and they're just like jellyfish that, you know, are frightened of everything, and life is tremendously intimidating, and they can't really get their hardness or their strength from anywhere. They just don't have it in them. Those people, to me, are as bad as the psychopaths and the narcissists who you have to deal with by being as tough as them. I don't know what to do with those people either, Mbulelo. I just leave them alone. I can't work with them. I can't do anything with them. They don't add value to my life. They aren't even decorative because they don't have personality.
Just keep it moving. Keep it moving, Mbulelo. I've seen you in the office, you know, be passionate and confront some of these conversations. Dog, just keep it moving. If it's not going to add any value into your life and you can see what you're dealing with and it's not going to do anything for you, track 7, skip, next, go on about your life and do you.
Talking about psychopaths, listen to what Jenny says. Jenny says, my dad made me believe I was adopted. When I was naughty, he threatened me that he would take me back to the adoption house. Then I would tell the whole of Mschlangerocks that I was adopted. Yes,
hectic.
Oh, that's mean.
Carrot and stick.
Horrible.
He's dead.
Damn. Sorry, Jenny.
Important. Very, very important. Apparently, Britney Spears got engaged, and I don't know.
Here we go. Kevin Federline round 2. What did Federline get from the first divorce? Because he got them back
a lot. Yeah, a lot.
He also got custody because she's insane.
That was where boyfriend allowance really became a term. Like it started back there. Boyfriend allowance was a thing. Now it's just like it's so common.
So
the hashtag, the Britney tag.
So this guy who she's engaged to now, and you can, if you can't tell from those videos that she put up on her social media that she's insane and that she needs a curator, and why her poor father should not be lambasted the way that he has been on social media. Just watch her in these videos. She's totally insane. So she's marrying this dude now. She's engaged to a guy who was in her music video, the last music video she recorded.
Another one!
Yes!
Even Federline was popping and locking at the back there.
She was a backup dancer. She's about that low-hanging fruit. I stand. Go, Britney. She doesn't need to go far to find love. The love comes and falls right into her lap. Go, girl.
Britney's the kind of girl who, if you just are around her long enough. Eventually, you'll end up married to her. That's all.
Pretty much.
She's got to pop and lock in the back. Pop, lock,
That's all.
pop.
So this guy
lock.
was apparently her romantic interest in the last music video, and then because she can't tell the difference between reality and acting, or pretend, because she's still a Disney kid in a Mickey Mouse Club kid in her head, because Britney's never grown up, so she doesn't know that this is not reality. So in her head, she fell in love with him for real, and now she's actually going to marry this douchebag, and he's going to end up with a whole lot of her money. Watch. And because her father's not there to watch over the money, she's going to give him everything, and she's going to end up poor in a trailer back in Louisiana where she came from. Watch.
Again, I forget, like her and Beyonce still shock me because, they were such big stars. But every now and then I hear them talk, and she's so like, you forget how country she is. Like Beyonce again, like whenever Beyonce is, she's proper. And Beyonce, I'm like, hey, not like that. You know what I mean? Like I forget sometimes that these people, we are what we are. And so Britney, like you said, she's going to buy a mega trailer, isn't she? Now that her dad can't control the money. She's going to buy a mega trailer with a above the ground jacuzzi and a lapa.
She was always a bit of a swamp tick. I mean, this is no. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I used to, because Britney was this huge big star when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I always thought, oh, what a beautiful girl. And she was in these very cute music videos where she looked amazing and she could dance, she could sing. And you were like, wow, this Britney's so talented. And then you kind of hear her speak.
Yeah, look, it seems like she's been with this guy for almost 5 years. So number one, shout out to him for playing the long game, because clearly he's just investing his time in, what he believes is a whole bag. But I think we need to be a little bit sensitive, guys. Britney, from the jump, being a child star is like insane, especially in Hollywood. Like the stuff that you learn from a young age, it's bizarre. She's never been a real human being functioning like a normal adult. She's bound to make these cook decisions.
I'm sorry. She's 38 years old, and her father has had to step in and look after her money for the last 10 years or something. She's completely irresponsible. She gets married to any guy who's in her space for more than 5 minutes. She's had children that she's not even allowed custody of because she's so crazy. And she's now posting videos as this new dude who's in her life. I wish her luck. I really do. But I do think that trailer park in Louisiana is coming up faster in her front view than any of the good successes she's had in her rearview mirror. That's all I'm going to say. And I do want to throw in here, because we're talking about stupid Hollywood type celebrity nonsense this morning, which we don't do often. We talked about Madonna earlier. We talked about the Met Gala. We're talking about Britney Spears now. So I've got to throw this in. It turns out, very, very important news. Dun, 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 dun. You need to quickly make a note of this, because it's something huge in everyone's life. Apparently, Kanye West has unfollowed Kim Kardashian on social media. Ooh, isn't that a bad sign?
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
Oh, no.
Are they still married?
I think so. Yeah.
Aren't they like on their way out? Like they're still very close, but in terms of like the actual marriage thing,
you're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But who's the head witch there on the Kardashian side? What's her name? The mastermind of it all?
Kris Jenner.
One. She's already sorted out how much Kanye gets to get out the marriage, and in fact, his bag's already packed. She knows that lady's a mastermind, just a puppet master, just doing it. Because she did a Madonna kind of shoot as well that came across on the gram for me. I'm like, ooh, okay, that's what we're doing now. Shout out to you, Kris Jenner.
Listen,
she scares me.
Power to her. I mean,
yeah,
she imagine your husband decides that your marriage was a complete sham, and your husband decides he's actually a woman, and you have to. How does your pride handle? There's no amount of psychotherapy you could put me in that would make it okay. If I'd been with somebody, then they suddenly decide they're the opposite gender after years of marriage and kids. They've got what, 4 kids together or whatever.
No, but Kris has been cooked. It's like, for her, it's just like it's something else that she can put into the show and make money off of. Like, let's not forget, she's a smart, smart woman. Like she packaged her kids into brands from the jump.
All of that I give her full points for, but I'm saying somewhere deep inside, when she's on her own at night and she's lying in bed thinking about her life, there's got to be some part of her that hurts just a little bit, that there's this circus carnival going on around her, that she misread everybody and they misread her. It's all just like this very commercial enterprise. There's some part of me that's like a little bit
I don't know.
a little bit horrified by what, like that. It's a real horror story. That family are
OJ,
Gareth story. She did sleep with
OJ back in the day.
Yeah,
So come
exactly.
on, she's part of the circus. I feel nothing for her. She is puppet master and puppet at the same time. Please,
I really don't think she cares. Like, she's too far gone. She might even be like close to soulless. She is so out of touch with, like, feelings and stuff like that. She just like, how much more money can I make? Whose life can I, use right now? Like, just to get it back. It's too late for her.
I'd like to say how proud I am of all of us for the first time on this show, as far as I can recall, having spoken about anything serious with the Kardashians in it for months. I don't even think we've mentioned them for months. So well done. Lebang and Bulelo and I deserve some points for that. We see, don't say we don't cover some pop culture bullshit. We do.
Yeah, because if the gloves don't fit, you must quit.
Love it.
All right. Look at this book. This is a book called Go Play Inside, all right? And it's what video games can teach us about the game of life. It's by a guy called Gareth Woods, who is a comedian. He's a writer. He is a business owner, a father, a husband, and he joins us today. Hey, Gareth, how you doing, man?
Very well, thanks. How are you guys?
Good. Nice to see you. First of all, well done on the book.
Cheers. Thank you.
So what made you write this book? Are you one of those parents who just got sick of hearing other parents going, my kids spend so much time on screens, and I guarantee you it's just going to make them addled and stupid, and they're never going to get ahead in the world because these screens are just a big pox from hell, and the devil himself is in the screens. Is that the kind of thing that you were hearing?
Verbatim, actually, with the accent and everything. As part of that, and I guess as an author yourself, I'm sure you've heard that, like, authors seem to feel like they've got this book inside them that somehow they just need to let out. And so I guess it was a mix of those two things, wanting to get out this message about, I guess, games and the things they've taught me, but at the same time interacting with a lot of parents who kept going, exactly that. I want to be the parent that my parents weren't for me. I want to support them in this thing that they enjoy doing, but is it real? I don't want to be the parent that, knocks down the door going, you're wasting your time with this rock and roll or this art or this whatever, because my parents did that to me, and I'm an accountant when I could have been a rock star.
Yes.
And that's kind of
I don't blame you. That's a horrible reflection on life, is that you could have been a rock star, but you became an accountant. How depressing. So I hear you. All right. So Gareth, let's just start off with the idea behind this, because you're not just giving an opinion without substantiating it. And you are a gamer, so you spend a lot of time learning these skills yourself. And you reckon that there are things that we can learn from games: strategy, hand-eye coordination, basic skills, negotiating with other people, having to deal with an environment where there's constant change. Tell us about some of the main things you've picked up from gaming that you reckon kids could actually be, they could be improved thanks to.
Yeah, I think the ones you mentioned are kind of the ones that games have always marketed themselves with. I mean, I remember in the 80s and 90s, consoles being sold on will help problem solving and hand-eye coordination, and basically any marketing puff they could put on a box to get parents to believe in this thing that at that stage was very new and very kind of like unknown. But I think, of all the lessons in the book, the one that's kind of struck me the most recently has been the idea of control. So in the one chapter, it's called a controller for a reason. And I think especially during this kind of COVID and lockdown stage, when so much of what we have to go through is not under our control, I think it's a lesson that gaming has taught me frequently, which is that you're very aware when you play a game as to what is in your control and what isn't. You're playing, let's take Mario Brothers, for example. You control Mario, that's it. You can jump, you can duck, you can move left to right. Occasionally he gets a power up and changes some of his abilities, but that's it. You don't control the time, the gravity, the bad guys. That's it. And so it's been a weird, it's almost like the gamer's serenity prayer, as it were, going like, show me what's under my control and let me forget about everything that's not under my control. And I think that's been the premise of the book, is to go, how many of these lessons are we taught in gaming, but it's not on the box in terms of the cartridge or the console going, you will learn these things. They're just these lessons that you pick up just by playing the game.
So just thinking about the control aspect of this, which I hadn't thought of this before, and it's great that you articulate it so beautifully, because kids, I think a lot of times they hear these vapid, vacuous people in the media saying to them, you can be anything, you can do anything, everything is within your control. Even their parents are probably telling them that. You know, it's all, there's your unlimited potential and there's nothing that you can't do, which is bullshit. So many kids are growing up these days thinking that is true, and then they hit the hard, cold world of reality, and suddenly their whole picture of themselves falls apart because they go, I thought I could control everything. Mom told me I was the best. Mom said to me I could play soccer at the highest level, but I can't even kick a ball straight because I'm squint. You know, these are the problems that I think a lot of kids grow up with, and games maybe teach them also that the world is not going to conform to your idea of how it should be. In other words, if you go online, particularly in online gaming, and you play against other people, they're going to behave like people in the real world behave. They're going to be dishonest. They're going to misrepresent themselves. They're going to lie to you. They're going to win you over and then betray you. These are things that people, if you learn them early on, they're less hurtful later on, and you know what to expect from people.
Yeah, it's also a safe environment. I think or safer at least. You know, that's the thing with gaming, is it gives you an opportunity to just, for one, try things you would never try, repeat over and over and over, and fail and fail and fail. But know that in a weird way, in a game, success is inevitable. You know, if I gave you the challenge of curing cancer, you know, you might not know how to do it. You might not even know if it's possible. But the fact that in a game, the obstacle that's put in front of you, you know, is possible. Or, I mean, a really bad game, if they're designed with an impossible kind of obstacle, like a boss you couldn't beat, it might be incredibly difficult, might take you hours to complete. But you keep trying, and you try different things that you might not ever try in the real world, because you're going to manipulate the game rules in a way you can to eventually overcome that obstacle. But you know that obstacle can be defeated. It's almost got its own intrinsic motivation. That you almost wish that in the world we knew that the obstacles that we had in front of us were built in to be able to be defeated, because then you'd have that confidence to just keep going at it until you eventually overcome.
How safe is the world of gaming for kids? Because there are obviously huge negatives here, and the parents who complain about this stuff have a very good case. I mean, there are innumerable children who've been ruined by sitting in front of a screen all day, and they just have no personality, and all they can do is interact through a screen. They don't have social skills. They don't have a personality necessarily. They don't know how to deal with real people in real environments. How safe is the gaming world? And we also know that there are creeps everywhere, and there must be a lot of creeps in the gaming world too. I don't know that if I had a kid, I don't know that I'd just let them loose for a couple of hours every day on the computer. You don't know what's going to happen to them. So when you say safe, what do you mean?
So for one, I mean, we've obviously got to separate the games themselves from the multiplayer experience, because it's the case of going like, would you say that rugby is safe? You go like, cool, it's a game, and if everyone plays by the rules, it is intrinsically safe. But there are some hooligans out there who are going to bite you at the bottom of the ruck. They're going to, you know, kick you and do all that sort of stuff. They're not playing in the rules. And in the same way, there's a multiplayer experience where you go, you're playing a game as innocuous as Fortnite. It's meant to be played by kind of young teens and whatever. But like, there are people who are going to, in voice chat, maybe saying some explicit things that aren't part of the game. So the rating experience changes, because it's not actually the game, it's the people you're involved with. So I just want to separate that part, and that's its own kind of like parenting minefield, is how your child interacts with other people. But I mean, that's been around since the days of chat rooms and any online experience. I think the game part for me is multiple facets. The one is obviously the age restrictions are there for a reason. I find it so weird that parents will be enforcing age restrictions on movies in terms of going, this is an R-rated movie, I will not let my 14-year-old watch it. But when it comes to games, they're playing GTA as a 10-year-old. They're playing all sorts of like adult content much younger, because in their mind, it's a game. What did Pac-Man ever do to corrupt our children? it's that kind of weird space of going, those ratings are there for a reason. The games have gotten to the space of like as being as artistic and as thought-provoking as movies and music, but people are treating them in a weird way, like it's Pac-Man and Mario as a blanket statement for gaming, when there are lots of like very, very kind of like thought-provoking experiences that adults want. I'm not trying to get gaming to a stage where it's so censored that adults are precluded those experiences they want to be having, like interactive adult experiences, whatever. And I don't mean adult only in the like sexually explicit. I mean just in terms of dealing with psychological, thought-provoking kind of elements that kids shouldn't be involved in. But I think the key is how involved the parents are in the process. In the same way as you got these parents who go contraband everything and games are, the sin, and that amazing accent you put on earlier about them being fearful of everything. You get the parents that aren't fearful enough. They just act like gaming is this all access, unfettered enjoyment for their kid to be using. And at the end of the day, gaming and screens and all of it is a tool. If you treat it as a tool that can bring your kid in immense entertainment and education and socialization, all that, in the right amount and in the right kind of like access control, it's the same as any tool. I mean, food, for example, you don't let your kid have unfettered access to the food that they want. And
that's not true, Gareth. A lot of parents do. A lot of parents do. You clearly haven't walked around a mall lately. Lots of countries.
I spent time in Disneyland with more rascal scooters, disability scooters than you've seen in your life. So I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of unfettered access to sweets and all that stuff. I guess I'm being a bit normative in going like there shouldn't be that kind of access.
Don't make it. You're right. Go, Lebang.
Yeah, what Gareth is saying is it's actually taking me aback a little bit, because what we sometimes do as parents is just sort of grab the game, give it to the kid and say, run along, do your thing. You don't really get as involved. So I started playing a game with my kids. It's a game called Journey. It's just about like a little character moving around. I love that game. And since we started playing Journey together, now I can sort of trust that, when he plays the game, I can trust whatever he does, and luckily it's just not that kind of game. But I guess what I'm trying to say is when you actually sit and play the game with your kid, it's a lot different to just sort of like letting them and go out into the world. You can be exposed to some of those creeps on the internet. You can be exposed to some. So I'm still figuring out the mind. Is it mind blocks or road blocks? I'm still figuring all of that out because it is messy. It's the big internet. You don't know who is who. It's an 11-year-old girl dressed up on the internet, but behind is this 50-year-old man living in his mother's basement across the globe. So I think number one, getting involved as a parent makes the biggest difference. It really does. There's a little bit that you can control. You can't control all of it. I promise you can't. And to the point of having age restrictions and blah blah blah. Again, Gareth, like how much of that can you really control? If the game says, no under 18s, your child can find a way to play that game whether you want to or not. So I just think being able to sit with your kid and getting a little bit of like understanding of what this game is about really can sort of help in the long run.
I'll use an anecdotal example. I was playing a game with my kid. He's 5 years old. The age restriction was, I think, 10. And from a gameplay perspective, it was pretty innocuous. It's platforming gaming, so your character's jumping around doing whatever. And then the story took a kind of dark turn where the characters are these kind of like toys, but they're representing an adult couple who then are getting divorced. And as a 5-year-old, not being able to really grapple with that concept. And so it was a chance for me to almost have this like gifted to me teaching moment of being able to like talk to my kid about like what divorce means and what does it mean if a mom and dad don't live together anymore. And so it's almost like giving you these really great parenting opportunities. And I mean, he's 5. If this continues our relationship that we can play games into his teenage years, it's being able to almost to like, me and my wife have this thing about, do you strengthen your kid or do you protect your kid? Because they're two different things. I was hearing some of the chat you guys were having earlier in terms of like kids who've been protected only and never been strengthened. Sometimes you do have to protect your kids. I mean, you make your choice as a parent. Let's take something like drugs. You might protect your kid and avoid them having any access to this sort of stuff as much as you can. And they're going to find about it one day and you hope that they're strong enough adults to be able to make decisions themselves. Or you strengthen them to teach them about this stuff. I'm not saying you go out and buy crack cocaine and you share it with them, but you tell them about it, you let them know what it does and kind of explain all that stuff so that they feel empowered, that they know about the stuff enough to make the decision. And I think gaming allows you to almost have those opportunities where I often sit and we're playing together, and then I watch him make decisions, and they might not be the decisions I make. I try not to judge them, but we can chat about it afterwards. But it doesn't feel like he's got his dad censoring every decision that he has to make while playing the game.
Right. So it allows them to develop a little bit of agency early on. So let me ask you this, Gareth. The real question most parents are faced with, and frankly, the whole of society is going to be faced with. I don't know if you saw that China has just limited the amount of time that kids are allowed to spend in front of screens. And when China makes a decision like that, people follow or they get killed. So this is it's not negotiable in a place like China. So kids, I think it's an hour a day they've been limited to in front of.
On the weekends, I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 1 hour a day, and 18. Yeah.
Correct. And I think that this is probably a really positive thing for China, as if they don't already have the advantage of, much better schools, much less kind of indoctrination through nonsense liberal arts kind of ideas. The Chinese may just be giving themselves another leg up here because they won't be putting their kids in front of a screen for that long. Whereas in the West, the screen does become a computer. The screen does become outsourced parent to so many. So what is the right amount of time that you think a kid should be spending in front of a computer screen, and what kind of time should parents be looking at roughly? There's no easy answer to this, but go ahead.
No, thanks for teeing it up as no easy answer, but I think the Chinese have had a history of sweeping changes when they want to deal with something nuanced. You think of the single child policy. It's like population control is a nuanced topic, and to just sweepingly go, you can have one child. You talk about indoctrination from the liberal side. I mean, this is very much government indoctrination, telling you this is how society should be. So in the same way as the gaming thing, they're going 1 hour a day is how they're prescribing is what 18 and 18 should do. It's going to have other sweeping changes. For one, I think you're going to see a lot of kids who are just going to work their way around it. I've been following the article quite closely, and already there's all sorts of ID fraud and all sorts of VPN stuff where guys are logging in from overseas VPNs. So they're finding a way around it. The other thing is, just from a money point of view, China has some of the biggest esports teams in the world, worth millions and millions of dollars, and they're already looking to leave where their HQ is and go elsewhere. So it's going to have a financial impact there as well. So I think it's a bit of an unnuanced approach to a very nuanced issue. To jump onto the question of how much screen time is enough, I think it comes down to the child. I know it's a bit of a political answer. Some kids are more inclined to be outdoorsy, some more inclined to be screen types. It does depend on your affinity to that sort of stuff. If I use my own example, my kid gets 1 hour of screen time a day, but we try and encourage him to choose gaming over TV because it's less of a passive pursuit. Him playing a video game for an hour is, I feel, far more valuable than him passively sitting watching Peppa Pig or whatever for an hour. It's just kind of forcing a message on him. It's far more, like you said, agency. There's far more problem solving. And the only rule we kind of have is that whatever game he chooses, that's the game for the hour. So it's not this pick and choose Netflix TV sort of thing where you go, I'll watch 5 minutes of this. Oh, the story's getting a little bit act 2 and a bit, I don't want to be here, so I'm just going to pivot and go to the next show. No, you stick to what you've chosen. So because I don't want the kid as well that goes, play stage 1, gets through it, gets to stage 2. Ooh, this is hard. Play the stage 1 of the next game. No, you chose this game. The game is going to get harder because you are getting more skillful. That's how life works.
I heard the most terrifying thing yesterday. Apparently, the average American adult spends 100 days of their lives just deciding what to watch.
Sure.
100 days of their lives just going with the remote, trying to decide what to watch, or going through YouTube videos or whatever.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
That's ridiculous. That is a complete. When you get to the pearly gates one day and you've lived a life, and someone says to you, "What's your biggest regret?" I'll guarantee you, there's not going to be anyone who's going to go, "No, those 100 days I spent just trying to find the right thing to watch. Those were well spent." nonsense.
Yeah, it's a real thing, Gareth. I see it all the time with my kids. Sorry, Mbulelo, my 7-year-old, like when he's on my phone, if a stage gets too hard in a game, he'll just literally stop playing and download another game. I've had to ban him from downloading games because it's getting that absurd. And I worry because my 2-year-old has this thing where she'll take my phone and she's on YouTube, the shorts, the stories or whatever. I told you guys about it last week. She just does this. She's not even sitting through the full minute anymore. She's just going up.
Yeah.
It's
and it's
tricky.
training them in a way that, like, I mean, I catch myself as well when you just doom scroll Twitter and you just go, I've got these alerts that tell me how long you've been kind of like on an app, and you just go, oh damn, that was 20 minutes. I just didn't do anything. And it's different from like, I'm not trying to say that like wasting your time is not a waste of, it's not a good use of time. Sometimes we need to clutch out and just like play a game for half an hour, watch a TV show, but you've decided to do that thing. Or what I'm kind of against is the doom scrolling aspect, is where you just go, oh my word, I just wasted half an hour not doing half an hour of something. I just let time pass. It's different if you went, I don't think anyone does this, I'm going to spend half an hour just going through social media. No one does that. You kind of check in for a little dopamine hit or a little like snack, and then an hour passes. Whereas if you went, I'm going to spend my coffee break or whatever playing a game, or I'm going to spend my break watching a show, at least it feels like that's what you wanted to do with your time, not that your time was just extracted from you like some sort of like siphon, which is what social media feels like sometimes.
Yeah, I think social media would be a much bigger waste of time than a game. I mean, I agree with you. There's an interactive part of this, but there are some games that are also really, really smart and strategic and brilliant, and will teach your kids incredible things. Before, what's the reaction to your book been? Have people mostly said, this is nonsense, or we agree with you, or is it half and half?
No, it's actually been tremendously positive. I had to lower my expectations at first. Like, I mean, you write a book, and then you realize about the technicalities of writing a book. It's not just the writing, it's the afterwards of the publishing and the press and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of lowered my expectations in terms of like having to go through that birth canal. But generally the response has been excellent. I think especially from non-gamers. I think I wrote this book as a gamer, but trying to address non-gamers. And so that's been the hard part for me, because I've been a gamer for far longer than I haven't been one. And so it's been great to hear non-gamers, even if they just have that kind of aha moment, to go like, cool, it's not a waste of time, but it's not also all sunshine and roses. It's not like, cool, I'm just going to have my kid have a deluge of games and just play non-stop, and one day he'll be an esports professional, it'll all be worth it. There's also on me as the parent to go like, hey, if you want to get engaged in the space, here's some insights I've kind of garnered through the years of playing games and trying to help you understand the space. But at the end of the day, the work is still up to the parent. I mean, I always think of an insight my dad gave me, where he said that your kid will give you very few chances, invitations into their world. Like in terms of going, hey, Dad, this is my favorite band, come listen. Or like, hey, I love this show, come watch. And if you judge those opportunities, this is bloody rubbish, why aren't you doing your homework? Or, what the hell is this art? It looks crap. Then those opportunities to be invited are going to shrink very, very quickly. And then teleport 10 years from now and you go, my kid's on drugs, why didn't he come talk to me? My kid got someone pregnant, why didn't he come talk to me? Well, because you didn't even want to look at his art. Like, why would he want to talk to you about the problems he's having with like bullies or drugs or whatever, when you can't even like accept something as basic as the game he likes? And so it's the invitation really for parents to go like, this world of gaming, it's not even is the future, is the present. The idea that gamers are all these 14-year-old nerds, 40-year-old virgins in the making, those are still gamers, but it's not an exclusive club anymore. Everybody games these days.
I know a parent. He's a good friend of mine. He's a gamer, and he is, at the same time as being a bit of a gamer and a bit of a nutcase, he's also a really good father. You know, these things are not mutually exclusive. You can either be one or the other. But I do want to go to Neil's question here. He says, my son always wants to give up when the game gets too difficult, or he asks me to take over. Either you practice and get better, or you go outside and you play. So he's finished that hard stage and he loves it. I think that's a good point.
It's tough. I've had plenty of times when it's absolute tears. My kid is just like not digging this game because it's gotten too hard. And it is difficult, especially when we're playing games where I think his ability in gaming is far out, like more developed than his maturity. So it's the case of going, he's doing really difficult stuff, but he's on the razor's edge in terms of his temperament, in terms of too many losses in a row, and he can't, kind of like rattles him a bit. And one thing I've found that helps is like, what we'll do is like, I will do the bit that he can't do for him, but then we will reload that point and he'll go and do it himself. Because sometimes it's just being shown that it can be done.
Yes.
In the same way, it's like when I've been stuck in a game, like I'll often go on a YouTube tutorial to see, oh, that's how it's done. I still have to do it. I still have to do the jump and I still have to beat the boss, but I know like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. Because I'm absolutely stuck as to how to do it. And I came from the generation where you didn't have the internet. So you would just be stuck until someone on the playground knew how to do it. And then everyone would run home and try and do it for themselves because there was no internet to, share notes on. But sometimes it helps just to see someone able to achieve it. And I think that's why like Twitch and YouTube and all those videos are so popular, because guys can see how the professionals kind of do things.
Yeah.
Listen, congrats on the book. I mean,
Cheers.
this is a really welcome addition to what is otherwise just, games are bad news, they're terrible, and kids shouldn't play them, and blah blah blah. I mean, you've got to hear the other side of the argument, because there are probably a lot of things that we can all benefit from. Technology in every other aspect of our lives has helped us, and of course, in some ways, hindered us. So everything's about the balance. But if you want to read the book, it's Gareth Woods' book. It's called Go and Play Inside: What Video Games Can Teach Us About the Game of Life. And thank you very much. There have been lots of comments here from people who think that you're a complete lunatic.
It's the toys.
Robin says, I can't believe what I'm hearing. She's been very angry through all of this. And then other people are saying, well, you know what? You're spot on. And frankly, life is just a big simulation. So we may as well learn these lessons through games. Gareth, well done. Congrats on the book. We'll speak to you soon.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time.
All right. Bye. Cool. And thank you, everybody. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m.